How's it going, Yankee fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Ryan Garcia. And today we want to discuss three different players who need to step up for the postseason. So Ryan and I put together a list, three different guys each. We want to discuss, specifically why these guys will make a big impact moving forward. And hopefully they can get hot right before the postseason. We've seen some streaks and polarizing play from some of these guys, injuries, coming back from injuries. And ultimately, you have a couple of weeks here to kind of ramp up and get ready for the postseason, which, these guys need to go into the playoffs already red hot. They've won 3 games, but really thanks to Andrew Benintendi, his phenomenal performances. He has 3 straight games with 2 hits, and he's just made a significant impact. So it's really good to see that trade acquisition is panning out, starting to get hot right now and making a significant impact. But, 4-2 score lines isn't going to get it done all the time in the postseason, especially against some of these powerhouse offenses. We're going to need more offensive production. We're going to need stellar pitching performances. And you can't have 2 or 3 games where you just fall apart at the seams and just can't put it together. You need to be hot all of the playoffs. You cannot scrape by when you're not playing well and the team is not playing cohesive baseball. So, Ryan, before we dive into 3 players each, so I got 6 players in total. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. The Yankees kind of have a stretch here against Oakland and Los Angeles where they can kind of try to do their best to take advantage of what is a lighter part of their schedule. It is a West Coast trip, which is never easy per se, but getting Stanton back is going to be a big help, of course. But, you kind of look at this roster, there's a lot of really good there are a lot of really good players in this roster, guys who played on all-star teams, who have been in award contention, have won Gold Gloves, have finished in Cy Young voting. These are some very good players. And I guess the first one I want to talk about is Harrison Bader, who acquired in that Montgomery trade, has kind of been ridiculed because Monty has been so good. Montgomery actually leads all of pitchers that were traded at the deadline in F4. He's been unbelievable with St. Louis, which, credit to him, kudos to him, but ultimately the Yankees feel confident that he wasn't going to make their postseason roster. And if that's their evaluation, they are going to stick by it. But Harrison Bader is no slouch either. I think some people kind of overlook how good Harrison Bader has been since 2020, averaging 19 home runs per 600 play appearances, putting up a 105 WRC plus, which is 5% better than the league average hitter, and a 4.1 WAR per 150 games played. Look at the center field options we've been putting out lately. It's Hicks, Florial. These are not players who are contributing very much. And you can make the argument Florial deserves more time. Maybe he just didn't get enough play appearances, but it's hard to argue that Florial was going to give you much at the center field position, much more than just being a placeholder for some injured guys. Whereas Bader's a 3.5 to 4 win player. When he's going right. And I think the Yankees need that defense, that base running. The Yankees' identity early on in the season was being a very good base running team. They've made a lot of base running blunders lately. As you mentioned, Benintendi's been red hot. I think some of his base running, successes lately has helped the Yankees. Tagging up on a sac fly, getting some extra base hits, that definitely helps. But Bader provides speed. He provides defense. He's a solid enough hitter. He's just a better player than a lot of the outfielders the Yankees currently have. Stan's coming back from injury. An Achilles, that whole situation with his injury, you don't want to push him in the outfield. If you can keep him out of the outfield, that's the ideal situation. And reality of the situation is you're not going to force Stan to play the outfield if he doesn't have to. And if you think about the defensive outfield of Benintendi, Bader, and Judge, you feel really, really, really good about that defense. If you're facing a very good left-handed pitcher, you can put, someone else in left field. You could go Carpenter in right field, and you could put Bader in left field. If you feel like if there's very tough lefty out there and you don't want Benintendi to be exposed there. But Bader gives you a lot more flexibility, versatility in that outfield. He's an unbelievable defender, very, very good base runner. He was on pace to steal well over 30 bags this year before he got hurt. He had 16 stolen bases in the first 2 months of the season, which is ridiculous. That tied his career high. He made an active effort to try to steal more bases, be more aggressive, and I think the Yankees need that. He's again, I call him a playmaker. I think that's what he is, and I think he's very valuable in that asset.
Yeah, I mean, Harrison Bader is going to be a benefit to this offense, to this defense. Like you said, when he gets on the base paths, he's a guy that can score on a single. He's a guy that can score easily on a double. He's someone that you don't have to worry about defensively. Aaron Hicks has been kind of running with his head cut off a couple weeks here, and he's losing reps quickly. Esteban Florial coming in, couldn't really do anything offensively. And then you have Stanton coming back. I don't know how active Stanton will be, but just harping on the Harrison Bader front for a second. I do think that he's going to be an extreme benefit on the base pass. He's going to be an all-star center fielder. And, if he can get on base at a decent clip, he's going to provide that value you're looking for. I don't know if he'll match what Jordan Montgomery is doing with St. Louis right now. It seems to be very, very mad and very, very productive based on that kind of trying to, I guess, rub it in Brian Cashman's face. But at this point, if Bader can make a full return, if he can stay healthy, that plantar fasciitis, I've had that injury before. It is not easy to come back from. It is very easy to re-injure. It is not something that just simply goes away. You have to be careful at any given moment, any given movement in the outfield. You put your foot in the dirt, put your foot in the grass, suddenly it's injured again. So you got to be careful with that. Hopefully he's able to fully recover. I think he's still in a walking boot. But, this is a guy that definitely can be the difference maker for this Yankee team come the playoffs. And, he can do it all on the offensive side. He can do it on the base pass. He can do it defensively. Someone that's an impact player in many different facets, as you mentioned. But my player first right off the bat is Gleyber Torres. Gleyber Torres is your starting everyday second baseman. Of course, the Yankees could say, you know what, Cabrera, you're hitting well at the end of the season. Your defense is impeccable. We'll start you over Gleyber Torres, but I don't think that that's what they want to do. Looking at Torres' numbers in July, the guy was hitting 292 with a 35% on base rate, 458 slugging percentage with 7 homers. Rather 7 doubles, 3 homers and 14 RBIs and 8 walks. He looked fantastic in July. Now August rolls around and suddenly his numbers deteriorate to a level that is just incomprehensible. He's hitting 179 with a 20% on base rate, 269 slugging percentage and 469 OPS. He has 2 homers and 4 RBIs. He has not hit well in the month of August. Now, this is a guy who's taken a big step forward defensively at second base. He's reliable there. He had some really flashy plays against the Mets on Tuesday. Those double plays that him and IKF turned were absolutely fantastic. He's looked very good defensively. I'm very happy with him in that facet, but he's got to get hot. He's got to start hitting those opposite field home runs again. Otherwise, Yankees are in kind of a tough spot. Now, when you look at him hitting with runners in scoring position, he's one of the worst on the team. He's hitting 193 with a 24.4% on base rate, 312 slugging. He has 2 homers and 27 RBIs. That number needs to improve if he's going to be productive in the postseason. He's got to be able to hit with runners in scoring position. What are your thoughts on Gleyber Torres, his progress here, and do you think he'll be able to make this, turn this season around, I guess, up to this point? He's had some polarizing months, but now he's kind of at a cold streak. He's got to snap out of it.
I 100% agree. I think he's an important key to this machine. You want to have his defense at second base. He's had some blunders where it's like, what is he doing? But then you look at some of his base running, successes or some of the things he's done with his glove. You're like, we need to have this guy out there. He's had a lot of success in the postseason in the past. I still think he's a talented hitter. It's unfortunate he's struggling like this because realistically, I think he finally made adjustments that were supposed to make him a lot better, and he's kind of steered away from that. He has gone away, from what made him very good. It's unfortunate. Hopefully, at that hot month of September, but I agree he's a very important piece to this Yankee puzzle, especially come the lineup shuffle in October.
Yeah, absolutely, especially come the lineup shuffle in October. But the next guy I have on the list is Giancarlo Stanton. Last played on July 23rd, hitting 228 this season with a 31% on base rate. If Stanton is hot, and here's the thing, and I don't know if you'll agree with me on this, but what I find with Stanton is he gets better as time goes on. He needs to stay healthy. When he's seeing the ball well, when he's been playing a couple months, couple weeks consecutively, and he's not missing any time, he starts to really get hot. He just compounds over time. That's the type of player he seems to be. His play compounds, but the injuries always hit him in the most inopportune times. He was doing so well, and then bam, injury hits, and he's really struggling. And then he gets, placed in the IL. So it's a tough situation for Stanton, but now he's coming back. He has about a month here to really get back in the groove. He has a couple weeks. He's expected to get, called back up today. He'd struggled at the minor league level, seeing a couple of pitches, definitely struck out a couple times, but, that's expected. Now he's going to be hopefully injected back into this lineup against the Oakland Athletics, who are a struggling team. And this is a good opportunity for him to really get back on rhythm and really get his flow back and, make some good contact, maybe hit a homer and, just get back in the groove with this Yankee team who desperately need him in the cleanup spot. I can't watch Josh Donaldson bat cleanup anymore. Yes, I love the grand slam. Good moment for him. But other than that, he's been pretty disappointing. And he's been losing snaps lately, losing reps. So, when you're looking at Giancarlo Stanton, he's the guy that could change the course of a game in the blink of an eye. You have a guy on base, you have Judge on base, Benintendi, LeMahieu, Rizzo, high walk rates for some of these guys. Bam, suddenly you have Stanton up and he's hitting a 2-run homer, 3-run homer, and this game again gets blown completely open. That's what he provides you. He provides you that spark, that instant game-changing moment. Give him 4 or 5 at-bats. Eventually he's going to make some good contact. So, Ryan, looking at Giancarlo Stanton, how important is he to the future of this team in terms of the playoffs?
Well, one thing that Stanton does extremely well, and it's kind of been his bread and butter as a Yankee, is he hits very well for instance scoring position. And I know that, that's something that I've discussed is sometimes more of a, you just get hot when guys are on and you can't necessarily control it too much. But he's a great hitter, and then you have that he's imposing for pitchers. Pitchers do not want to pitch Giancarlo Stanton. I think people forget this isn't a guy who necessarily is disciplined at the plate. He doesn't go out there and spit on every pitch out of the zone. He's got a decently high chase rate, but the thing that Stanton does so well is pitchers don't want to pitch to him. He does not frequently see pitches in the zone. And so if you're a guy like Rizzo and you're going to get attacked more because teams are not going to pitch to Judge, they don't want to pitch to Stanton, they're going to try to pitch to you. Rizzo's a very good hitter himself. So, teams are going to have to not foolishly, they're kind of forced into a pickle where they have to pitch to one of those three guys. And any of those three guys can beat you. Those are three prolific home run hitters this season. Stanton is just an unbelievable freak of nature power wise. I know some people kind of, it's kind of hard to explain, but Stanton has generational power. There's a difference between being a very good power hitter and having Stanton like power. That's generational type stuff, the type of stuff that I think Stanton may end up in the Hall of Fame one day. But if Stanton doesn't end up in the Hall of Fame, I guarantee you the fact that he's the best, like in terms of you're going to see baseballs probably in Cooperstown with 119 miles per hour home run rocketed by Giancarlo Stanton, because you need that's a part of baseball history. He's unbelievable in that regard. And that's it imposes on pitchers. It puts pressure on defenses. Imagine having to make catch a ground ball that's hit 110 miles per hour to your left. How do you get to that ball? Realistically, you have to react quick enough, get the ball, trap the ball, and then make a play on that. So that can be difficult for teams. That can be difficult for players. Stanton just makes life hell for pitchers. And I can't imagine how much better the Yankees are going to be with Stanton added on top of he's going to hit behind guys like Judge and Rizzo. And Benintendi's hitting well. LeMahieu's hitting well. So it's just you have a very strong top of lineup that you don't want to pitch to at all, but you have to.
Yeah, you kind of have to. I mean, look, when you have Judge and Stanton right there next to each other, with Rizzo smacked in between, it's a tough group to get through. But the third guy I have on my list is Gerrit Cole. He's the one that really needs to be hot going into the season because he's had polarizing performances. I think he gave up 12 earned runs, 10, 12 earned runs in between those two games in August. So his last game, I think he gave up 4 earned runs, and then his first game of August, he gave up 6. And then sandwiched in between those, he only gave up 1 earned run. So he's just so all over the place. Like one game's amazing, the next game's a piece of shit, next game's great, next game's a piece of shit. It's like you can't get any consistency from this guy right now. And it's like when you're paying someone $30 million, you expect them to be a little bit more consistent, in my opinion. But moving forward, this is a guy you need to start off a series. He's your ace. He's your guy that has to set the tone. He's got to be dominant. We're going to be playing some fantastic offenses, whether it's the Dodgers in the World Series or whether it's the Astros before. This is not going to be an easy road to the World Series, let alone getting past the first, second rounds. Gerrit Cole's got to be lights out. He's got to be phenomenal. He's got to shut down the opposing offense. He's got to give the Yankees an opportunity to win games. If he doesn't do that, the Yankees are going to be fighting from behind the entire time. The offense does not look good right now. They have a month to get back into shape, start putting together some efficient performances. But in my opinion, Gerrit Cole's the man that needs to step up in that pitching rotation. If he doesn't, it's going to be a a short postseason for this Yankee team. What do you think the importance of Gerrit Cole going into this season hot and providing just adequate, efficient performances?
Well, Gerrit Cole is a guy who's interesting because if you look at barrel rates, if you look at like hard hit rates, Cole's actually got the best hard hit rate and has the best barrel rate against of his Yankee tenure. Like he's not getting barreled as much as he did last year. In terms of hard hit rate, it's down from last year. Exit velocity down from last year. Strikeout to walk rate is roughly the same, but he's given up way more home runs. Or not even way more home runs, right? It's a 0.007 difference in home run per 9 rate, but the ERA minus is up 14 points. So how can Gerrit Cole turn this around, I guess is the question, right? How can Gerrit Cole execute better? How can Gerrit Cole get out of these, get away from these horrible outings? Because as you mentioned, it's not, he goes out there and he goes, every single night, it's 6 innings of 3-run ball. He goes out there and he gives you a shutout, and then gets absolutely crushed on a random afternoon game, 6, 7, 8 runs. I remember I was at prom and I hear Gerrit Cole, home run, home run, home run, home run, home run. Like, oh my God, like what the hell happened here? Like, this is a guy who's struggled in the first inning. We've talked about this before. He is a guy who really, really, for some reason, cannot figure out the first inning of a baseball game. He walks more guys in the first inning of a baseball game. He gives up all of his home runs basically in the first inning of of baseball games. I hope for his sake he can get that figured out. I don't think it's impossible to say that Gerrit Cole can figure out the first inning of a baseball game. This is not a guy who struggled in the first inning previous. But when I look at walk rates, right, his walk rate's a lot higher, right? I don't think that's 12.3% in the first inning. That's not Gerrit Cole, right? That's not right. If you look at home run per nine rate, 2.9. He's giving up so if it's 3 home runs per 9, he's basically averaging a home run every third first inning he pitches. So, we can't have that in the postseason, obviously. And it doesn't help when you walk guys. So if you're walking guys and you're giving up a lot of home runs, it means you're giving up a lot of home runs with runners on. That presents a massive issue. All right. So for Gerrit Cole, it's a matter of he has to figure out his command in the first inning, whether it's a preparation issue, a situation issue. Maybe he's not ready in those afternoon games, whatever it may be. He's got to sort it out, right? He's got a preparation issue. I think he's well aware of it. I think the Yankees are well aware of it. I think as a fan, I'm sitting back and I'm not worried that Gerrit Cole's going to go out there and not give me what I need to win a playoff series. I think I'm worried that he's not going to go out there. I'm worried that he's going to have that one start in October that he gets absolutely shelled and it's a wash of a game and he puts the Yankees on their back foot. And I'm worried that game can come in an elimination game. Because let's be real here. Yes, winning game 1 is extremely important. Winning any game you win in a postseason series is very important. But you can rebound the next day. If he stinks in game 5 and the game's over by the second inning, that's it. That's your postseason, right? If he puts up, the other team puts up 4 or 5 runs in the first 2 innings, Yankees can score, but they're not putting out bums on the mound. This isn't, against Oakland. I know Montgomery put us down 5-0, but it's Oakland, right? They suck. The Oakland Athletics are probably going to sweep us if I say too much about how bad they are. But, my point more so is in October, you're going to be facing, guys like on the Rays. You're going to be facing Shane McClanahan, Shane Baz, Tyler Glasnow, Drew Rasmussen, their great bullpen. You're not going to be facing, their bad pitchers. You're not going to be facing their scrubs, their filler guys. They're going to be facing their best. Same thing with Toronto. You're not going to be getting Yusei Kikuchi in that series at all in the starting rotation. You're not going to be getting some random spot starter from the Astros rotation. You're going to be getting Verlander, Valdez, Javier, McCullers. You're not going to get scrubs. So, the Yankees need Cole to give them that at least in elimination games. And it's got to come down. It comes down to preparation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It does come down to preparation. And the next guy you think you had on your list was Jonathan Loáisiga, right? I think he is definitely a catalyst from the postseason. It seems like they've been relying on him a lot more. In fact, in his last, 5 games here, he's only given up 1 earned run, which is a big improvement compared to last month in July when he gave up a 6 ERA. And then in May, 8.22 ERA, and April, 6 ERA. So, he's getting better. He's starting to find his groove. They may have changed his pitch sequence up a little bit. Maybe he's just getting a little bit more comfortable, feeling better. He did pitch against some pretty good opponents, Toronto, the Mets, the Rays, and he did some pretty good stuff there. Generated a lot of ground balls too, which is a good sign for his sinker. So, what are you thinking about Jonathan Loáisiga, his role? And it looks like right now, if he continues on this pace, he could be a pretty decent asset come the playoffs, someone they can at least rely on.
One thing with Loáisiga that I think is very important is I don't like that he uses his sinker as much as he uses it this year. 63.6%. This is a guy with a great breaking ball, right? If you look at his pitches, let's kind of take a look here at what he's done this year with his pitches. His sinker has a 319 average against, 417 slugging, right? Gets a decent amount of whiffs in comparison to last year. It's roughly the same. But if you look at the curveball, batters are hitting 125 against it. They're whiffing 30.3% of the time. They're slugging 313 against that pitch. The changeup, 053 average, 053 slugging, 40.5% whiff rate. If we look at run value, so run value is a StatCast metric. His worst pitch by run value is his sinker. So if I look at Jonathan Loáisiga, why are we using our sinker 63.5% of the time? This is not something he did last year. Last year, he used it 54.9% of the time. So he's increased the usage of that pitch for a reason I don't necessarily understand. Maybe it's just feel. Maybe it's just he's still trying to feel himself back on the mound, trying to get pitches over the plate. But if I'm Jonathan Loáisiga, I need to go out and get whiffs, right? We can't let good teams get the opportunity to consistently put the ball in play. Toronto is a team, Tampa, Toronto, Houston, Dodgers, Mets, whatever team you want to list that is potentially going to be in a factor in this postseason, a wall for the Yankees to have to climb in this postseason. They will feast on pitch that are thrown consistently like a sinker, because fastballs are just not as revered as a primary pitch as they used to be, right? How many guys in today's game throw their fastball well over 50% of the time and are successful, right? You think it's Gerrit Cole, even in the Yankees rotation, Gerrit Cole, and that's it. Nestor doesn't use his four-seamer more than 30 or 40% of the time. Montas uses his fastball and sinker combined 50+% of the time, but they're two different pitches, right? So it's not one of those pitches being used over 50% of the time. If you look at Cole, he's the only guy who does it, and his fastball is clearly the best one, right? So for Loáisiga, he has to utilize those breaking balls at off speed more because those are very successful pitches. We need to go out and get strikeouts. You need to go out and get outs, right? When you get called on to a first and second situation with no one out, a ground ball double play helps you, but if it's a ball in play and it sneaks past you don't turn that double play, suddenly it's first and third with one out, right? A sac fly ties the game or gives them a lead or gives them another run. You need a strikeout thrown in there. You need to strike out one of those guys, right? So, those non-contact outs, those strikeouts, 0 expected batting average, nothing can possibly happen outside of a drop third strike, which you imagine is very infrequent. Loáisiga needs to go out and get swings and misses. And I think that if he's a big part of this bullpen, if he's able to find what he was last year or get close to it, this bullpen's unstoppable. So he needs to go out and get more whiffs. His strikeout rates are down. His walk rates are up. Batted ball data is fine. Not getting crushed, not getting hammered, getting blooped a little bit, but that's whatever. But he's got to go out and get swings and misses.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about his sinker and how they're using it a lot. Actually, in the month of August here, he's using it at 71.7%, up from 66% in July. So you're seeing a massive increase. And here's something that's interesting that I'm just kind of looking up over all the numbers. And there's two things that I noticed. One thing is he's not really using his sinker as a put-away pitch anymore. He's using it early in counts. He's only given up 4 singles on 15 at-bats. Those are the only hits he's given up using that sinker. Which is a good sign, 17.6% whiff rate compared to an 8.8% whiff rate last month. But the other thing that I noticed that his velocity is up. It seems like they were trying to get his velocity up a little bit more. It's up 0.4 miles per hour. So from 97.7 miles an hour to 98.1 miles an hour. That's a significant difference for a pitcher. Obviously ramping back up, had that shoulder issue. They were force feeding the sinker. Like it was so obvious. Like they're making him throw the sinker an unbelievable amount. Clearly, they were trying to get the velocity back up. They were trying to get a little bit more. The spin rate's a little bit down, but it's doing a lot better. It's producing a lot better numbers than it was before. In July, batters were hitting 333 against it. Now they're hitting 267. And he's doing really well with it, producing a lot of ground balls. So that's a good sign for him. And then, like you said, he doesn't really mix in the changeup that much at 14%, the curveball at 7.5%. His curveball actually down 22% to 7.5% this month. So they've almost taken the curveball out entirely. Seeing a little bit of an increase from 8% to 14.2% with the changeup, but the sinker's really seen the biggest significant marginal difference. So very interesting there to see how they're kind of tweaking his action, and he's obviously responding well to it. The velocity's up. I'm happy about that. And it seems like if they can continue to get him those reps, it will pan out. But he's not using that sinker as a put-away pitch. He's using that changeup more so as the put-away pitch with 2 strikeouts there. So that's interesting to note. But you have one more player on the docket, right? You said Harrison Bader, Jonathan Loáisiga, and who's the last one?
I have Frankie Montas. I think Frankie Montas, you look at starting pitchers across the league, and when Frankie Montas was acquired, if you look at, the Castillos of the world and other pitchers that were traded, Montas had an argument to not only be, one of the top 2 or 3 guys, but arguably the top guy. His stuff is very good. We know that he can get good results. We saw him pitch in Oakland. He was very, very, very good, very successful there. He had some clunkers to start off, and I think his start against the Mets was very encouraging for a lot of reasons. Particularly, he threw his cutter more. I think that cutter is an important pitch for him for a lot of reasons. I don't think that, you look at his fastball, sinker, slider, splitter, right? They're good pitches. All those are plus pitches, but, in a sense, they kind of need that glue, that pitch that can kind of pull all of them together. And improve the quality of his other pitches. And that cutter, it differentiates from that fastball, slider, sinker. It's kind of an odd pitch, right? If you look at it in comparison to all of his other pitches, it looks like a fastball off the hand, which most pitches try to look like a fastball out of the hand. But unlike those other pitches, his cutter genuinely has that drop that you're thinking, okay, maybe it's a sinker. I'm going to get ready to drop my hands and go down and in on this pitch, but it cuts away from you. Right? Or you throw that pitch, and even if it's not necessarily a pitch for anything other than for show, when you go back with that fastball, right, it's hard to pick up that pitch. It makes picking up spin very difficult. On screen, right, we know that it looks a lot easier than this to play. I think a lot of people who know baseball could tell you, right, it's hard to pick up spin. That's what hitters try trying to pick up 3 different variants of a fastball spin in terms of cutter, sinker, and four-seam fastball is extremely difficult. And the last time we saw Montas use his cutter this much was in Oakland in 2 previous starts where he went a combined 14 innings of 1-run ball with 15 strikeouts. So I look at his cutter as a glue pitch, as a pitch that improves the quality of his other pitches, that makes him a little more deceptive. Imagine a guy going from a 4-pitch pitcher to a 5-pitch pitcher with 5 quality pitches instead of just 4. That's a massive difference. A 5th pitch, a 5th thing to worry about. The Mets were guessing against Montas all day in that outing, right? Marte, 3-1, is swinging at a cutter down and away from the zone and then takes a fastball that catches the plate on the inside part of the plate. This is an aggressive hitter, by the way. He was guessing. He didn't know what he was looking for. These guys were guessing. Vogelback, guessing. Lindor, guessing. These guys were guessing. Alonso, he sees a fastball upstairs, guessing. He couldn't catch up to it. He was guessing. They're on their back foot. And if Montas can go out there, throw strikes, mix in those 5 pitches very, very successfully, even if he doesn't have one of those 5, and he's just throwing them one of that last pitch for show, right? You have 5+ pitches. His cutter is very good. His slider sweeps a lot. His fastball and sinker get a lot of good movement and great velocity. His splitter is absolutely phenomenal. That's the pitch everyone talks about, right? 5+ pitches. Imagine trying to beat 5+ pitches. I implore teams to try to beat 5+ pitches. If Montas can give you that, can be that 2 starter for you. Think about it. We talked about Nestor Cortez. He's proved himself to be an ace. He leads all Yankee starters in win probability added. He's been clutch all season for the Yankees, right? If you have Cole, Nestor rolling the way he's rolling, and a Montas who's got that 5th pitch, who's extra confident, who's got himself back to where he needs to be, I implore teams to try to beat those top 3. And that's without talking about Severino, without talking about this bullpen. It just gives you such a big advantage over other teams. And ultimately it comes down to, can Cole, can Montas, can these guys be the pitchers they're supposed to be? Because if they can, the Yankees going to win the World Series. It's that simple as that. If those 2 guys pitch the way if they're supposed to pitch, the New York Yankees will be raising their 28th banner this year, and we will be a very happy podcast come the beginning of November.
That we will. We will be a very happy podcast for sure. And, you said it all. Frankie Montas has really stepped up his game. His last performance was stellar against a very good offense. That's what we want to see. That's what it takes to win a championship, especially during the postseason when they're elevated in general. So seeing that performance from him is definitely inspiring. It's optimistic. I'm excited to continue watching him during the regular season as we approach the end in a couple weeks here. But like you said, man, he just has elite stuff across the board. When he's on, he's on. He's like Gerrit Cole. Like when he's on, he's very hard to beat. And you just have guys guessing, trying to figure out exactly what is happening. So that kind of rounds out the 6 players that we had in mind, 3 from each of us who need to step up for the playoffs. A lot of information for you guys here. So hopefully you guys took away some good stuff. Would love to hear your perspectives below. If you have anybody else in mind that you think needs to step up for the playoffs and, just get hot before we head into elimination rounds. So I'm excited to hear your perspectives, your narratives. As always, make sure to like and subscribe below, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.